Today we will finally begin installing the quarter panel onto the 240. Thank you guys for being so patient with me and waiting for this video to come out. I know a lot of people have been asking for 240 updates or even just putting this quarter panel on in general, but now it is time. And this will not be a very easy install. Yes, the car needs just a quarter panel, but as you can see, some of the structuring here is not the greatest. So I wanted to utilize as much as the factory metal on the back here from this new quarter panel as I could. So I wanted to try and figure out how I can undo some of the spot welds on here and also drill out some of the spot welds on the back of the chassis here. Now there are some new factors that we're gonna have to deal with this quarter panel. Because if you guys remember the car I took this quarter panel off of, it was completely rotted. And I don't think I want to weld rust onto the car after all of this work. So I'm trying to think of ways that I can maybe keep some of the original quarter panel on the car. Plus, I forgot about this. The previous owner, I guess the previous owner of this quarter panel had cut out the VIN tags. And this wasn't a stolen car or anything sketchy like that. The previous owner just did not want this car to be titled ever again. So when he sold the car, he sold it as parts only. Now we have parts. So that's just how it works with S Chassis World. So we're going to have to work with what we got here. Because I don't want to drill out all these spot welds here and then have a gap on my VIN tag. Because that would look very sketchy if I got pulled over and they're like, one, mismatched panels probably. They're going to be like, oh, let's check your VIN. Let's make sure this car is legal. And it's going to be a gaping hole or just weld marks around there, which will just look even more sketchy. So I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm thinking maybe I'll keep this portion from this car and maybe make a cut line up here. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And I also want to mention, I'm sorry if this video looks or feels a little different than my other videos. I have these new lights, as you guys have seen previously. I didn't realize that the camera that I usually use picks up these black lines. And I guess that's pretty common with using LED lights. So I'm just switching to using my phone for now. So I'm hoping this video will still come out all right. If not, let me know. First thing I want to do is start drilling out some of the spot welds on the chassis itself. So I've already started doing this section here. I might just continue this all the way down. Again, not to the bottom, how it would be if you're just doing a normal quarter panel replacement, because we want to start opening up the inside structure here. I want to remove this and this piece because this was cut for overs. That's why it's all jagged. And also, if you can see in here, there's a hole still. It's just not very nice, and it's not the goal of this build. We want this to basically look the exact same as it did before the crash. So this piece is the wheel well, obviously, and it goes up to around here. I think it actually splits in half, but there's a seam right here in the middle, which is right here. So I think if you drill out all these spot welds, you'll be able to split this wheel well in half. So once you get this old quarter panel off, we'll be able to see more in depth on this side. And if you're looking to replace some type of panel on your car, I'll show you some tips and tricks of what I've learned throughout this process. So firstly, this is the spot weld drill bit. It's like a drill bit, but hollow. It only cuts the outside. Now, theoretically, you're just supposed to set this onto a spot weld, which is like this right here, for example. But I find that the bit walks around a lot. And if the bit walks, it will chip, break, and go through these like no other. So what I find to be the best method is to grab a smaller drill bit. I use the 7/64. Grab this. And you use the smaller bit to drill a pilot hole in the center of the spot weld. It'll look something like this. So that's what I'm going to do for all of these spot welds first. Oh, and before I forget to mention this, there have been some scam comments on my YouTube channel and also DMing on Instagram, I've noticed, to like message me on Telegram or something. Those are all scams. Okay, I'm not going to tell you to message me on Telegram. If anything, I'll comment saying message me directly on Instagram or directly to my email, which both my username and email are posted publicly. I don't have a Telegram posted, so it's definitely not going to be me. So just be careful and be aware of scammers out there. Don't give all your information to strangers. I appreciate you guys for telling me that there are scams going on because it's impossible for me to keep up with all the comments and whatever's going on behind the scenes. Plus, if it's a reply comment, I don't actually get a notification, so I really won't be able to see that. Be on the lookout. Be safe. Let's get back to work. So we've got our spot welds drilled, and I've only drilled up the spot welds to about here on the B-pillar because that's how much of the quarter panel that we have to work with. And if you're wondering what that noise is, I have a little space heater going because it's the middle of winter and it's freezing, so I'm trying to stay warm. But you can already tell just by drilling out these spot welds that the panels are already loose. I haven't even pried these or anything. That's just another reminder of how paper thin these cars are. So now I need to make some cuts. I definitely need to cut off these spot welds here. I'm gonna be generous and just cut it. Actually, let's see what we have to work with before we make a cut. So there's the hole for the door light indicator. I think that's a pretty safe cut line if we just chop it on this quarter panel for now, because we can always cut more straight across, and then maybe from around here we'll go down, and then we're going to cut it along the top of this seam here, because I might need to just save this bottom piece like we mentioned before in the beginning of the video, because this one's rusty. So we're going to leave us a lot of slack here to work with just in case we need it. We've got our cut lines made. Hopefully that'll do. So I'm going to wedge this. Oh, didn't need to. Maybe I will over here. It looks like this weld may have welded a little deeper than what we can see. Yeah. It's just barely on there. Is all of this free? Let's check. I might need to grind this a little bit more. Oh man, just fold it over. It's got that active arrow. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter how I cut this since this is being replaced. Quarter panel delete. Probably hang this up on the wall someday. Oh my gosh, looks so empty. Is the door still open and closed? Oh, dude, it's so wobbly. Why does that work so good still? Now we can start looking at what we have to work with on the inside. This is going to be fun to get off. Yeah, so here we go. Here's the spot welds right here. I don't know if I'm trying to take off this entire rocker panel to free up this section here. I might have to think about where I'm going to cut this instead, because this panel goes from, looks like let's see, it goes from right here all the way to here. Okay, down to, oh, it only goes down to here because it overlaps to this one. All right, I guess it's not so bad. Still, I don't want to take off the rocker unless I can get it from the inside. Looks like maybe previous owner of this half cut of the car welded a base plate here for a cage, so that's gonna be really fun to get off nicely. Before I start drilling away any of this inner structure here, I'm gonna raise the car up and put it on jack stands just to make sure it doesn't fold in half when I'm drilling it out. Alright, we're on jack stands, and in the front I'm on wheels because I forgot my other two jack stands at the house. So that'll do for now, and I'll just switch them later. Now we need to get this wheel off so we can really get a good look at what's going on the inside here for when we split this seam. Then I'm going to try and clean up some of this sound deadening so we have more access to drill out these spot welds. And we're going to start with just doing the front half, and then we'll worry about the rear half once this is off. So I drilled out most of the spot welds. I did not, however, get all of these lower ones because it did not have access to them. And in order to get access to them, I would honestly need to take off the rest of the quarter panel, which goes up to here, comes down to here, down, 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 along the bottom, along this pinch weld. But not on the pinch weld, surprisingly. It's actually, you can kind of see the line right here. That's the quarter panel line, all the way back. And then drill out these spot welds here. And I was trying to avoid having to do that, but at this stage of the build, I might as well just do it the best that I possibly can. So I guess we're gonna have to take this off next. Although I don't see any spot welds here, so I'm not 100% sure how this is attached here, unless it's just glue. I'm gonna have to straighten out this pinch weld so I can actually get access to the spot welds. And the same goes for this little spot here. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Now, these spot welds are pretty hard to see on here. What I like to do to make it easier to spot them is grab a wire wheel and then just grind off all the rust or paint or whatever is on there. And it'll look something like this, which is way easier to spot. I have to admit, I did not know that there were spot welds along this seam right here. They were never visible until you grind off all the paint. Oh, and another thing, when you're done using the wire wheel, you want to inspect yourself for any of these little guys sticking up, because they hurt. Let's see how much more we need to drill out. This looks pretty loose. Oh, and see how these went all the way through? I pushed a little too hard on these and ended up grinding through the second layer as well. You really don't want to do that because it makes it a lot harder to weld the panels back together. But I only blew out 2 on the top, so that's not so bad. So when I put the screwdriver here and lift up a little bit, you can see that the panel lifts. So we know these are all free. You can see that one moving, so that's good. But you don't see this one moving. I think this spot weld right here is catching. So what I'm going to do is just grab a drill bit and drill that out a little bit more. These are all freed up. But I think I missed one of the spot welds on the bottom. Right there. Oh my gosh. Look at all that junk. How is this still attached? Oh, it's like... No! Right onto my drill! There we go. Jeez, now it's really naked. Honestly, no wonder why 240 rockers always rust out. You can see how much grime was just sitting in here. You can see the lines, like how high up it was too. I almost want to cut like an access hole on the bottom so it can just fall out instead of just being collected and rusting away. I've never seen this part of the car before. There's even more hidden within this rocker panel. Is that a whole beehive in there or what? It's wild. So now we can finally hit these spot welds and along the rocker panel as well. All right, it's coming out now. I think it's caught on this sound deadening. Also, there were no spot welds from here forward. That's a pretty long section to have no spot welds. All right, now that looks wild. Let's see how the door closes. All right, now let's begin on getting the... Well, should we start on getting the second half off or freeing up this wheel well? Oh, I'm noticing this goes all the way down. You'd have to take off the rocker panel to access the bottom of this. But that's okay. We don't need the bottom of this piece. Remember, because it's rotted. Yeah, we're just going to splice that in somewhere, but we'll figure that out later. So we need to finish taking off the rest of the original quarter panel all the way up and all the way down to here. And then once that's off, we will be able to see what we have to work with and how the structure holds the quarter panel onto the car. I've drilled out all the spot welds remaining on the quarter panel, and also went ahead and drilled some pilot holes here for the rest of this inner shell. It's already really wobbly just from drilling these out. Let's see if I can free it up. So I would say the quarter panel is free, but it's just stuck on what I have previously welded here. So I'm just gonna have to cut this for now, and then we'll worry about this end later. Wow, it's crazy that this is starting to surface rust. Probably just from holding moisture. Also, I've been looking at this for a while now, trying to figure out what's going on. And it looks like this is just a reinforcement pillar. Only goes from here to here. And it includes the shock mounts for the trunk. And also the upper seatbelt hole. But I'm realizing that it is kind of warped. You can kind of see how some of these spot welds here are angled and bent in the same direction. I'm assuming that's from the impact, and when the roof A-pillar just kind of wedged everything towards the rear, that probably absorbed some of it and forced them all to warp that way. While I have the opportunity, I think I'm going to use this one. And I was smart enough to cut it farther up. So to put this into perspective of what we have here, this piece of metal right here, this outer lip one, is part of the roof. So that goes to here. Now, yes, I did seam weld this, which is kind of unfortunate. Probably should have just tacked it for now. At least we can just cut it there and know that that's the right dimension. Another thing I realized is this backing plate here is different from this backing plate on the C-pillar. So we have the reinforcement plate, C-pillar structure, and the quarter panel structure. And these are just little reinforcements within. Same with this. I've already taken this one off. And it's crazy how much moisture these panels hold. My car was completely rust-free, and you'd never think that there was rust under all the panels. It's almost like these cars weren't meant to last forever. But we're going to make them last forever. Man, this is just so flimsy. I cannot believe it. And really, the quarter panel is the only thing that attaches to the rear trunk section. It's got 4 spot welds here, and then whatever spot welds along the side here. But there's no support beams like this or anything like this. It is just the quarter panel that supports this. I cannot believe that. My next steps are going to be cutting the C-pillar, finishing drilling out all these spot welds. This is for like the shock mount area. I want to keep this part of my car because I was looking at the parts on this quarter panel and they're rusty. Now there's no quarter. Straight up quarter panel delete, including the structure. Wow, looks crazy. Look at how solid the roof still is. That roof jig is really coming in clutch. And if you want to see how I made that jig, I'll be sure to tag this video so you can check it out. I don't know how I come up with these ideas, but when I'm just looking at things and looking at problems and know I need to make a solution, ideas start flowing and one thing leads to the next, and then I come up with something like this. All right, let's add this to the rest of the scrap. I guess at this point I need to take off the wheel wells. Now that we can see these spot welds here, we can drill pilot holes there. And I can drill these spot welds a little further now, since we have the first panel off. It's pretty wild that it was like 3 panels pinched together. But man, that looks crazy. There's going to be one heck of a before and after. I was about to start drilling off this wheel well, but since I'm planning on splicing the new wheel wells on to avoid adding rust onto the car, I should probably start taking apart this quarter panel first so that I know how much wheel well I have to work with. I've just completed drilling all of the pilot holes and all the spot welds that I could find, except for the pilot holes that are within this wheel well here. And that is because this quarter panel has been rolled already. So as you can see, it's already folded. I put a blue dot on the spot welds that I still need to drill out in here. So I'm gonna need to find a way to unfold this, because that's gonna be impossible to separate the quarter panel. Even if I drill out the spot welds like this, it's still pinched together. I need to be very cautious with this step, because if I bend it in the wrong direction or too hard, it could bend and warp this edge on the quarter panel, which we all know is the spot on the car. That's the spot to have good metal and be straight. Clean quarters definitely make the car look like a nicer car overall. So that is our ultimate goal, is to keep this as nice as possible. I have to be honest, I really don't know what the right tool to use for this job is, but I think this small flathead screwdriver is going to put in some work for us. And I know a lot of you watching have rolled your fenders and quarters before, but how many of you have unrolled them? Oh man. Let's work our way down, I guess. Man, they rolled these good. It is a really nice pinch. But down here, they did not do such a good job. It's a little wavy. Well, this was not going very smoothly, so I ended up just drilling the pilot holes through the quarter panel how it was. And it also ended up bending this little screwdriver a little bit. Now, I'm going to drill out all the spot welds, and there are approximately 138. Yes, I counted, but subtract the spot welds that are under the driver's side rocker. It's so rusty here that the quarter panel is already separated. It just rusted through the spot welds. And that's exactly why we're splicing in some of the old quarter panel, because I do not want to put this on my car. That was so satisfying getting this quarter panel off. But now we can finally see how much we have to work with for the inner structure. So the main inner structure, which was this thin piece of metal that went all the way across, looks to be perfectly intact, and I don't see any rust on it. Except for maybe down here, but that is not bad. Also, this is the infamous quarter panel foam in the S13s. This is probably used for assembly or to reduce noise or something in the wheel well. I don't know. And there's also a prehistoric bug in here in perfect condition. But the main thing that we needed to check was the wheel well arches. It's not looking too good all the way on the bottom. So by the looks of it, I'll be able to cut this all the way down here. Which is pretty nice because this was pretty messed up. And this one looks like it's in great condition. As for the other side, ooh, not so good. I might have to splice this panel a little higher than I was anticipating. Based on how the car looks, my panel's good all the way down. Well, I guess the next thing to do is taking apart all these panels, all the inner structures and whatnot, and aligning it onto the car. Well, actually, I still have to take off these. I'll probably cut this closer to the bottom. We got it. The inner structure. They came off really nicely, actually. Now we just gotta make another pass around to get the wheel well off. Oh, that was easy. Jeez, I made such a mess in here. Need to clean this up real quick. There we go. Now I really want to test fit this onto the car. Well, at this point, I need to make a decision where I want to trim the existing wheel well. This is actually the original wheel well to the car, because we can't just put this whole piece on here, because this rust actually goes up farther than I thought. It goes all the way up to here. That's a pretty decent amount. And I'm not sure if I want to take off the original lower rear quarter panel section either, although I might have to at least take off some of it, because I think it would be a lot easier to weld the seam lower on the quarter panel than right on the body line on a flat surface. But there's also a whole bunch of rust going on back here. So what I'm going to do is sleep on it and allow myself to think about what might be the best option. I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Don't forget to drop a like on the video if you've learned anything, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm really excited to put this on, so hopefully soon.